we could be alone between city lights. We don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in no secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in no secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the live stream. It is great to be with you here on a Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening if you're in Europe, or a Monday morning somewhere, I guess. Whatever time it is where you are, it is good to be here with you. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day here. And thankfully, now that we're getting into summertime, it is going to be possible for me to get out and take advantage of this beautiful day by doing some flying this afternoon. It's not going to be like dark by the time the live stream ends. Okay, that's exaggerating. Even in the winter, it's not dark at 3 p.m., but it sure does feel that way. But right now, for the next couple hours, I'm going to be here with you answering questions answering your questions. We're going to have a good time, hopefully solve some of your problems, right? Is that what we're going to do? Well, we shall see. Here is this William Shatner? I can't tell. It feels like it's William Shatner. Is it William Shatner? It feels like it might be. I'm going to be taking your questions here in the chat, so feel free to leave them. Feel free to leave them in the chat. And I guess we got some help this live stream. We're trying something different this live stream. I have got Blunty helping act as not a call screener, but yeah, I guess call screener is what he is. He's going to be helping select questions, finding like the really juicy questions that I might overlook because I'm too busy ranting or just talking to myself, or So Blunty's going to be helping queue those up for me, and we will be paying attention here in the YouTube chat. I agree that Shatner is a little too old to move like that, but Shatner also seems like the kind of guy who could like Jack Black. No matter how fat Jack Black gets, And Jack Black has gotten fatter as he's gotten older. I don't mean that like in an insulting way. No matter how fat he gets, he still seems just as athletic. And William Shatner strikes me as somebody who might be able to pull out a move. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. So we're going to be taking your questions here in the YouTube chat. We're taking your questions in the Discord, obviously, because the Discord is where my patrons hang out. And, Mama always taught me that if people pay you money, you got to pay them attention. Something like that. And we'll be also... Oh... Let's not make it weird. It's Bruce Buffer. Okay, Bruce Buffer. I'm sorry I didn't know you. And you look a little bit like William Shatner in a GIF. We'll also be taking questions. The super chats, we will be taking super chats as well. If you want to make sure, this is literally the only way to be 100% sure. Okay, 99% sure, because every so often I miss a super chat, but I try not to. This is literally the only way to be 100%, 99% sure that I read your question during the stream is to leave a super chat. Hit the $ down here at the bottom and leave a super chat. And we will be reading those throughout the stream as well. Before we get into it, let me say, if I don't answer your question during the stream, for whatever reason, there's no way for me to answer all the questions people ask. Look how fast the chat's moving. If I don't answer your question during the stream, anyone is welcome to email me. jb@joshuabardwell.com is my email address. I try to answer all the messages that I get. I try to help everybody who asks me a question. If I don't get to you during the stream, please don't feel bad. Please don't get upset. Just email me. And then, like in a few hours, I'll get back to you. Maybe a day. Okay? All right. Let's get into it. And the first question is going to be from Adam Hakimji. I'm sorry, Adam. I apologize. Adam asks, what are your thoughts on F4 versus F7 flight controllers? If so, any particular recommendations? Adam, in this day and age, you can do anything you need to do with Betaflight with an F4 or an F7. So if you're looking to save a little bit of money, you can save actually a fair amount of money by getting a flight controller with an F4 chip. The F405, I think, is the one that the really, really cheap flight controllers. I say really cheap. And these days, a really cheap flight controller is like $50 or $60, whereas it used to be they were like $25. So oops. But relatively speaking, the cheaper flight controllers will have like an F405 chip in them. There are limitations. You'll typically see fewer UARTs on some. I think the F405 usually has like 2 UARTs, and the F411 has more. I'm not. Don't hold me to that. You'll typically see fewer UARTs on the F4. And the other thing you'll see with the F4, and this is the one you really got to watch out for, is the UARTs on an F4 flight controller don't support inversion. And in order to run FreeSky protocols, FreeSky S-Bus, or if you've got a DJI device and you're using S-Bus from the DJI Air unit, it's going to need inversion. And so what an F4 flight controller will typically do is they will have one UART pad dedicated to the S-Bus protocol with an inverter on it. And what that means is that if you're using FreeSky, you're fine. Finally, something good about using FreeSky. But if you're using Crossfire, Express LRS, Ghost, or any of the other protocols that don't use inversion, that pad, that S-Bus pad that the designer of the flight controller put on there for you is basically wasted. And so sometimes there will be not as many UARTs as you would like on an F4 processor. You'll wire up your receiver, you'll wire up your video transmitter, and then there won't be another UART left for your GPS unit, for example. So just take a look at the pinout diagram. Take a look at the design of the flight controller you're thinking about getting. Does it have enough UARTs for you? Like the SpeedyBee F4 has plenty of UARTs, like 5 or 6 UARTs, right? In terms of processing speed, sometimes on an F4, you have to drop down from 8K to 4K on the PID loop. However, lots of flight controllers today come with the BMI 270 gyro, which only runs at 3.2K anyway. So you actually, wouldn't we rather run at 8K? Well, maybe it doesn't make a difference. I don't know. But the bottom line is on many F4 processors, because of the gyro, you're going to be running at 3.2K anyway, and it's not actually a hold off. The big advantage of F7s is you usually get as many UARTs as you could possibly want. And in some ways, an F7 is a little more future-proof, but I don't think those ways really manifest themselves in a way that really everybody can deal with or everybody's affected by. As far as recommendations go, well, it is a little early in the stream, but since you asked, I will just really quickly point you to my website, fpvknowitall.com, home of the ultimate FPV shopping list, and we'll just go to the 5-inch freestyle drones and parts, and we'll go to flight controllers, and boom, here are some flight controllers that I recommend. Okay? And that's where you can always get my recommendations. Thank you for the opportunity to plug that. Next up. Oh, wow. Mike Bundy says, what's up with Walksnail sharing in audience mode? It's there, maybe. Thank you, Mike, for a $10 super chat. Mike, as far as I know, this feature, I don't know. You sound like you know more than me, Mike. Because I know that they're working on it. I know that it's a menu item in the firmware, but I don't know that it's actually working. So if you have somehow managed to finagle it into working, I'm sure it's not a finished feature yet. Mike, have you been able to finagle it into working? I don't know. Let me look for Mike Bundy in the chat. Nope, it's just that Mike has no other comments other than that question. Mike, did you get it working? Did you see somebody working, making it work? I don't know. That's not yet. So, Mike, it's coming. I heard from an inside source that they are working on it, number one, and I saw it in the menu, so I believe that they're working on it. So it'll come soon, I would say. Thank you for your donation, Mike. Next up, we got a question from... Oh, it's a super chat, but it's blank. Oh, I see. Pet FPV just left a sticker. Thank you, Pet FPV, for a €10 super chat. Appreciate the donation. This question is from Saphiros. Joshua Bardwell, if you could instantly become a master in one musical instrument, which would you pick? That would have to be the guitar. I play the guitar. I sometimes hesitate to put that in the present tense because I don't really pick it up as often as I used to. But then some things, you never completely go away. It would probably be the guitar. I like the guitar a lot. Should I pick the guitar though? If you could just snap your fingers and pick, is that the best choice? I think that the two most versatile musical instruments, the two best musical instruments. Here we go. Oh, here we're going to piss some people off. I think you can argue that the piano and the guitar are the two, if you could only have one musical instrument, existing, that those are the ones that you would pick because of their sheer versatility, right? If you're stranded on a desert island, you want a guitar. Because, you could do so much with it. You could entertain the other people on the desert island. Everybody can sing along. And if, you had a trumpet, can you think of many things worse than being stranded on a desert island and the only musical instrument you have is a trumpet? And that guy's like, hey, guys, around the campfire, no, it's bad. And we'd probably listen just because we'd want anything to keep us sane, but... So maybe piano's a better choice. If I could just snap my fingers and be a master at the piano, I might take that over the guitar. That's a tough one. And then drums, obviously. So the three musical instruments, but drums, percussion, anything can be percussion. That's the thing. So that's a little different than a tonal instrument. Anyway. Thank you for the question. Ooh. Jess. Jess asks, does an onboard OSD introduce a significant number for CPU load? No. No. The OSD, I don't think, really does much for CPU at all. If you had one of those flight controllers with an H7 chip, where the OSD is actually being run by the processor, most of the time the OSD is the actual manipulation of the signal is done by a third-party chip, or the Max 7650 chip, or whatever it is. What features really do cause CPU load, though? So bidirectional RPM filtering significantly increases CPU load. That's one of them. The dynamic filter significantly increases CPU load. Those two things definitely increase CPU load significantly. Leo Ponce wants to know, does the Vista perform better or worse when used with the Goggles 2 or Integra compared to the V2 goggles? Elijah Butler says, are you saying drums aren't an instrument? No, not really. I just feel like drums are like a side. I don't know. I feel like if you ask me what's the best musical instrument, I'm like, okay, so first of all, you're gonna, like, drums are just such, here's what I'm saying. Percussion is just such a given that I don't even, it's just a given, right? You're gonna say, what's the best musical instrument to learn? Okay, well, clearly someone else is gonna be playing percussion. It's not gonna be me. And then I'm going to pick a tonal instrument. But, like, it's not like you're not going to have percussion. Right? Okay. Maybe I am saying that. Danzilla says, yeah, until you break all your guitar strings on the desert island, and then you wish you had a trumpet. That's true. A trumpet, I mean, I'll say this about trumpet. No consumable parts. No reeds, no strings. Good point. Good point. You guys are overthinking it. The piano and the guitar, the strings would break on the desert island, and then they wouldn't work anymore. You guys are overthinking it. Oh. Kim Fused, what problem did Your Majesty solve for you? What did Your Majesty do? Oh. Did you apply the HD preset? Oh, yeah. Okay. Leo Ponce wants to know, does the Vista perform better or worse when used with the Goggles 2 Integra compared to the Goggles V2? So, Leo, that's a tough question to answer. The Vista. Oh, the Vista. Oh, that is a tough question to answer. So, when you upgrade the Vista firmware to be compatible with the Goggles 2, it makes the Vista work like an O3 air unit. It obviously doesn't upgrade the Vista to support 1080p, but it changes how it works. And I don't know the answer to that. Obviously, it only runs at 100 frames per second instead of 120 frames per second, so the latency goes up. But I don't know the answer to that. I haven't done that as a side-by-side test either. Does the Vista, because at the time that I did side-by-side testing, I didn't have, that firmware hadn't come out. You couldn't run the Vista with the O3. So I don't know the answer. That's interesting. Maybe I'll do that test coming up in the future. Slippin' Downhill wants to know, what are your thoughts on the RotorRiot CL2? I started 5-inch about a year ago on a CL1 and was about to upgrade my 5-inch daily driver. Well, let's take a look at the RotorRiot CL2. So the RotorRiot CL2 it's a version of their CL1 frame, but it's designed to keep the props out of view when used with the O3 air unit. So it feels like an update to the CL1 frame, but designed for the O3, specifically to keep the props out of view. So it looks like what they've done, oh, come on. It looks like what they've done is they have simply extended the nose of the CL1 to push the camera out forward, right? It doesn't look like they've changed the geometry in terms of making it a dead cat or anything like that. It just looks like a CL1 with a longer nose. Let's just compare. Let's compare it to the CL1, why don't we? Can I see the CL2 frame? Yeah. I'm just looking for similarities and differences. It looks like the CL2 is just a CL1 with a stretch. Maybe they might have changed the width of these standoffs slightly because the O3 is a little wider. I don't know. It looks like they might be a little wider. This is a fine frame at a price of, oh gosh, $35 for the CL1. Wow. That's a very nice budget frame. I'm not sure why the CL2 is $50. Like, do we got a side-on view? I don't think we do. They really look very similar. Now we have the CL2. 20 by 20 and 25. So we got mounting in the rear. Does the CL? I think the CL1 only has 20 millimeter mounting. 3 millimeter bottom plate. Yeah, so this one, the CL2 has both 25 and 20 millimeter mounting in the rear. So that makes more room. Okay, so the CL2 is just making a little bit roomier frame for digital video transmitters. This is a fine frame. At a price of $35, this is a solid choice, right? There's not a lot of frames down in that price range. I think as you get into the $50 price range, there's a little bit more competition. And RotorRiot frames have always struck me, except for the Vanny style, but I'm not sure that RotorRiot designed the Vanny style. I think it's sort of under their umbrella. I don't know about that. I shouldn't speculate. RotorRiot frames always strike me as a little bit like utilitarian might be a good word for them. The designs are just very, very simple. And to me, they also feel a little bit dated. Like, one of the things that we've seen change in frame design is that people have moved from these wide flat arms, which are good for if you have individual ESCs. And they've moved to arms with more of a square cross-section instead of a flat rectangular cross-section. And those arms tend to have better resonance characteristics. Not that there's anything wrong with the resonance characteristics of this frame. I don't know. Just saying, when I look at these frames, they seem a little simple. Like we've just got... Why is the mouse doing this? We've just got like... line, 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 cutout, arm, arm. And I don't know those aesthetics. I don't know. At a price of $35... makes a lot of sense, and there's, you're like, well, what do you want for $35? I think at $50 there's a little more competition. There's nothing wrong with the frame, though. It just seems like there may be other frames that you would consider in the $50 price point. Yeah. Solid bottom deck is going to be easy to build. They're okay. They don't make me like, woo. They're not like, ooh. Like, if you remember the Vince McMahon meme. If you remember the Vince McMahon meme. Like for me, the CL1 and the CL2 are like here in the Vince McMahon meme. I'm like, okay. But they're not like, or ooh, or ah. They're like here. That's where I'd put them. Okay. I see that I've made a huge mistake by letting Blunty queue up the questions for me. There are currently 10 questions in the queue. It's like, look, Blunty, if you queue the questions up for me, then you can see the good questions. And then I can, like, you can queue them up so you don't miss them while I'm talking. But now there's too many good questions. No, keep doing what you're doing. We're gonna get through this. Siati, what are you preaching about in the chat? Siati's in the chat. He's like, preach. Siati says, I had a terrible time with the CL1 second set of standoffs not being tied into the arms, which led to tons of broken base plates. Let's look at what Siati's talking about here. So what he's talking about is that this standoff here, this screw does not go down into the arm. Now, if it did go down into the arm, no, we've got a separate screw here for the arm. And Siati would like to see this standoff basically moved forward slightly so that this screw goes through the arm. And he said that concentrates stresses like right here and breaks the base plate. It's valid. All right, let's move on. Alex FPV asks, Fat Shark Dominator with Walksnail V1 Nano. I put it in a Synolog 3.5, have full telemetry. OSD, everything works, but it stays in standby mode even after arming. I have the latest firmware on everything, etc., etc., etc. I'm going crazy. I just turn off standby mode. Alex, that I don't have an answer for you. The fact that you have OSD working means that the flight controller is talking to the VTX. At that point, it should know that it's armed and it should go out of standby mode. I can't think of any configuration. So if the VTX refuses to leave standby mode, then you don't have the MSP connection working. But if you have the OSD working, then the MSP connection is working. At which point, Alex, in your ports tab, like, I don't even think this should be possible. But in your ports tab, Alex, is it possible that you turned on MSP? No, see, it automatically enables MSP as soon as you select this option. Did it? Hang on, let's double check. Yeah, it automatically enables MSP. So, like, I was going to ask, did you somehow manage to enable MSP DisplayPort but not enable MSP? That still shouldn't work. I don't know. I'm stumped. I'm sorry to say I'm stumped and I don't have a great answer for you. I would just turn off standby mode and see if Walksnail maybe has a good comment, suggestion. I don't have an answer. That's weird. I don't think the OSD should work if MSP is turned off, but maybe there's some quirk there. But he says MSP is on. Royce Don, device ready, yes, is for analog VTXs, so that's not going to be the issue. Kyrie XXL says, Walksnail says you need to switch UARTs when everything else is correct, but standby mode doesn't turn off. It worked for me. That's okay. That's stupid. But thank you. So thank you for a helpful answer. But also, that's stupid. Why would you need to do that? That doesn't make any sense to me. But okay, Kyrie XXL says change UARTs. That's really frustrating because probably you've got a plug on your flight controller, and that's the UART that's in the plug. All right. Try what Kyrie said. You're going to have to take the wires out of the plug, solder them to a different UART, reconfigure the ports tab, and see if that fixes it. Okay, Kyrie deserves the credit for that win. Okay. Unmanned Sky. Thank you for a $10 super chat. Why does everyone say simulators are not a replacement for real-world flying? Are the sim physics off? Is there extra latency? Velocidrone seems pretty close to the real thing to me. So, Unmanned Sky, here's the analogy I like to make about simulators. So first of all, some simulators definitely don't have the best physics. All the simulator developers say, we swear the physics is correct. And what that means is, in some, not all cases, but some cases, what that means is that they went into the physics engine and they set gravity to 9.8 meters per second, or is it 3.4 meters and it's 9.8 feet per second? I don't know. They set all the physical constants in the physics engine correct. And then they were like, yeah, physics is correct. But it doesn't mean that they cross-checked the physics against the performance of real quadcopters. And some of the best simulators, that's what they do. They literally compare the movement of a quadcopter in the real world with a simulated quadcopter in the sim, and they look for ways that the physics engine is not accurately, because just because you set the numbers correctly in a physics engine doesn't mean it's going to actually, it depends on the accuracy of the engine. And also, quadcopters are weird. The things that they do are oftentimes hard to predict and hard to simulate because of the way they fly. So the best simulators will have compared real world to their engine and have validated their results. Even then, though, imagine that you took my quad. This is the analogy I like to make that I sort of teased earlier. Imagine you have a racing drone that you love to fly, and you're an expert, and you could just fly it like with your eyes closed, right? And now I say, hey, you want to try my quadcopter? My quadcopter is going to feel different than yours, even if you set the rates to be the same. I have different motors. It weighs differently. It just is different. There's always little differences. And I think some of the things that people feel when they go into a simulator and they say this doesn't feel right is just the difference between whatever the simulator is simulating and the way that they prefer their quad to fly. So simulators are not a replacement for real-world flying because it's difficult to perfectly simulate your exact quadcopter in the real world. You get stick time in the sim, you learn things, it's definitely good. In the end, you have to take it out and fly it in the real world. The other reason simulators are not a replacement for real-world flying is mental. And that's not what people are usually talking about, but I think it relates to your question. Because when you fly in the simulator, there are no stakes. If you crash, you just hit the reset button and you'll start over. And so you'll see these guys getting these amazing times when racing in the simulator, performing these feats that in the real world, you would have such a low chance of success that you would crash 100 times and destroy thousands of dollars in gear before you got that one perfect lap. But in the simulator, you can hunt for that one perfect lap because there's no consequence to crashing. And mentally, you know it. When you race in the real world and you know that if you crash, you're going to have to go pick up your quad and you might have damaged $200 in gear or $400 in gear. You know that and you feel it in your gut in a way that you don't in the simulator. Simulators are great training tools, and they're a lot of fun. You 1000% should work out tricks in the simulator before you work them out in real life, especially if it's a weird trick like a trippy spin where, like, what even am I even doing with the sticks? Figure that stuff out in the simulator first, for sure. Big Data Pimp has a great point as well, which is that the feel of a sim depends on your system. If you have an old clunker, it doesn't feel the same. That's true. You need to be getting as high a frame rate as you can. If your simulator is not giving you at least 60 frames per second, then you should lower the graphics. You ideally want to be getting 100 plus frames per second, and many people have said that the more frames per second they get, the better the simulator feels. And the reason for this is that the physics calculations are done at the same frame rate as the graphics calculations. Okay, people who design video games may nitpick that sentence. It may not be exactly right. But the gist of it is that the higher your graphical frame rate, the better the physics simulation is. So if you typically run at like the best graphics quality, and you're only getting 60 FPS. And I used to think, well, I got a 60 FPS monitor, so there's no point in running the simulator faster than 60 FPS. That is not true. Turn your graphics all the way down, uncap the frame rate, and run the graphics at as fast as they'll go, and the physics will actually feel better. Know Your Joe wants to know which are the better sims. Well, funny you ask. It's Blunty and I did a video where we tried like all the simulators we could find and came up with the best simulator for how was this video doing? 250K views. That's pretty good. So I would highly recommend if you're trying to decide on a simulator. This is still pretty up to date. I guess you know what? I'm going to real quick. Now that it's this information is still pretty up to date, I'm just going to take this date out of the title so that people don't like go, oh, it's only from January. I guess we won't look at this. Boondock Striker asks, why can't any of the simulators ever get gravity right? It's the one thing that never changes. So two things, Boondock Simulator. I promise you that every single simulator you've ever flown has the correct gravitational constant. Right? Obviously they do. That's like the simplest thing. And I promise you that all of those simulators, if you just drop an object and time how long it takes to get to the ground, it will be the correct number. So why doesn't the gravity feel right in a simulator? And I think there's two reasons the gravity doesn't feel right. Everybody says simulators feel floaty. The first one is, if your machine is running at a low frame rate, it's possible that the physics calculations are not working right, even though the gravitational constant is correct in the simulation, in the physics engine. It's possible if you have a low frame rate that it's not going to end up calculating correctly. The other thing is that they try to do drag calculations in the simulator. Drones have drag. If you think about it, what makes a drone slow down? You don't have brakes. You can't step on the brakes. A drone slows down when you drop the throttle purely based on drag. And it turns out that the drag calculations for a drone are very difficult because the surface area of the drone changes depending on which way it's facing, right? And which way it's moving. And there is a ton of nonlinear, turbulent, vortex stuff based on the props. Drag calculations for a drone are essentially impossible to do, like a full accurate simulation. And so all of the simulators use shortcuts to try to calculate the drag and make the drag feel real. The drag is what happens when you drop the throttle and the drone slows down. And drag also comes into play when the drone falls. The effect of the props on falling is very difficult to simulate. So one reason that that simulators feel floaty and gravity feels wrong is that the way that they're trying to get that drag calculation to cheat and shortcut the drag calculation may not feel right. The other thing is that's interesting. The other thing is that in the real world, you're terrified of hitting the ground. And I think this is a bigger factor than people realize. In the real world, when you are inverted and you drop the throttle, you freak the F out because you know you're about to hit the ground. And it feels, but have you ever had a situation where you crash and you disarm and then you just watch your quad fall out of the sky? And it feels like it's falling forever. But when you're flying and you go inverted, it feels like you need to flip over again. I think on the simulator, you're just not scared. And I bet that the quad isn't as floaty as it feels like it is. It's just mental. All right. Next up, we got a question from Benedict FPV. Emax 1404. Hang on one second. Blunty, did you clear those pinned messages? Or did I lose them? Hang on. If I lost, I don't want to lose them. I think you must have cleared them. He cleared them once I highlighted them. Okay, thank you, Blunty. I just didn't want to have lost them. Great. Everything is working as it should. Emax 1404. Thank you for a €2 super chat, Benedict. Emax 1404, Apex 3, GemFan 3016, Darwin F4, 4S. Good? I like it. Siati, are you here? I always run anything smaller than 3 inches. I run it past Siati before I render an opinion. That's what she said. Apex 3, I assume you're going for a heavier freestyle focused 3-inch, not like a really light toothpick style build. So the Apex 3 is an okay frame if you're going that direction. The Darwin F4 all-in-one, I don't know. Darwin tends to make okay stuff. I can't say for sure about the prop. I want to get Siati to comment because there's a chance Siati will go, no, I hate that prop. I know he has a lot of, and I don't have a strong opinion about that prop. But I think that sounds pretty good. And the Emax 1404. 1404 is a fine motor size for a lightweight 3-inch. You might get a little better performance out of a little bigger motor, but you're going to add weight. And if you're trying to stay under 250 grams. The 1404 is also going to suffer for durability because I'm pretty sure it has a 2mm shaft. Yeah. Zanderson, I want to get this question from Zanderson. I don't know if Blunty queued it, but I just saw it and I want to get it. Zanderson asks, here we go. Joseph Tahari says Apex is a little heavy for 1404s. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. That the 1404 with a 2mm shaft is going to struggle with the weight of that build, and you're going to have durability issues. What would you go with, Joseph Tahari? Like, I mean, 1507 is a little bigger. I don't know if that's a little... Joey W says an 1804 would be great. Okay. We would want to get up to something with a 2.5 or a 3mm shaft if we could. 1804 X Novas are beasts, but for 4-inch. So he's building a 3-inch. I'm not sure. 1804 seems a little heavy. He says it will work with 1404s. It's a tad on the heavier side. 1504s or 1604s are better for 3 inches or even the tried and true 1507. Okay, great. Everybody's given 4-inch motor answers. I agree. One of the nice things about going up to 4-inch props is you have a better selection of motors that'll work with that prop that are going to be a little more durable. Okay, Z Anderson asks, is there a fix for having to rebind my V2 goggles when switching from O3 mode to DIY mode? No, there isn't. DJI has implemented that fix on the goggles too. So if you have the goggles too and not the V2 goggles, then when you switch modes, like to Avata mode and back, it doesn't lose bind. The V2 goggle didn't get that fix, and I think we could probably speculate that it's not going to. So, F you is the answer. Savasi asks, hope it's not a stupid question, but if the ESCs have a temperature protection, why don't they cut off before they burn out if you get stuck in a tree? Savasi, none of the ESCs that are sold for multi-rotors have temperature protection enabled. They have temperature protection as a feature that you can enable, but with multi-rotors, you never want temperature protection or low voltage protection enabled on your ESC. Those come from airplanes. With an airplane, if you overheat your ESC and your ESC cuts out, you can still glide the plane back to a landing. Or you can continue to steer the plane until the ESC cools down and you could turn it back on again and limp home. But on a multi-rotor, if the ESC shuts down because it's in low voltage or high or over temp, the whole quadcopter just falls out of the sky instantly. So they have those features, but they're disabled, at least on multi-rotor focused ESCs. Quad City Bay Area, thank you for a $5 super chat. DJI idea for remote ID and goggles instead of drone is genius. No extra cost for consumer. Do you think others will follow? So Quad City Bay Area, just to clarify, DJI doesn't have remote ID in the goggles instead of the drone. The FAA has rules about what must do remote ID. DJI can't change that. DJI has GPS in the goggles so that the drone can broadcast the pilot's location, which is required for standard remote ID, such as is used on ready-to-fly drones like the Avata. Module-based remote ID, such as is used on hobby drones, self-built drones, does not broadcast the pilot's location. It broadcasts the takeoff location, I think, which may be the same thing, but might not be. Do I think others will follow? I think that the main limitation in whether others will follow will be the technical ability to do it. Like an analog video transmitter is never going to broadcast remote ID. It doesn't have it's not, the DJI has a software defined radio, or SDR, in their devices. And that means it's basically a Swiss Army knife that can do, it's like a Lego set for your radio. An SDR can do whatever it's told to do. It could broadcast an analog video signal. It could broadcast digital. It could do Wi-Fi. It could, I may be exaggerating slightly, but an SDR can do a wide variety of things. So since DJI already has an SDR in their devices, if they decide that they want to do remote ID, they just add that to the code and it does it. If you don't have that already in your devices, then you can't just suddenly start broadcasting remote ID. You need additional hardware. I also think there's going to be some companies that won't do it because customers will react badly and they won't think it's worth it. Pet FPV, thank you for a €10 super chat. When I connect the flight controller to the USB, my Express LRS receiver runs very well. But when I plug in the LiPo, the receiver immediately starts up in bootloader mode. Captain Bry, are you here? So there is a way to force an Express LRS receiver into bootloader mode. Like, you pull the TX line low to ground at power up, or you pull the RX line low to ground. I don't remember which it is. And there are some flight controllers that will do that thing to the UART at power up. I don't know why it's only doing it when you plug in the battery. I don't have a great answer for you there. If this was happening to me, there are two things that you could do. One is you could just switch to a different UART. That's actually the first thing I would do, because the next thing I'm going to tell you about is stupid and complicated, and you don't need to do it. The second thing you could do is you could install a pull-up resistor, or I'm going to see if I can find... Wait, let's see if I can find actual data. Captain Bry, where are you? I need you. Manufacturers suggested UARTs usually have a pull-down resistor, which will result in solid LEDs on ESP-based receivers. Avoid these UARTs unless you know your UARTs. So would you then want a pull-up resistor? If it's already got a pull-down, you can wire... Here we go. This is the answer. You can wire a pull-up resistor between the RX pad and a 3.3 or 5 volt pad. So get like a resistor between 300 and 1 kiloohms, and wire that to the 3.3 volt pad and the R line. Okay? And that will probably fix this problem. Okay? But I would just move to a different UART because that sounds like a pain in the ass. Okay. Kim Fused, thank you for a $10 super chat. Thanks for creating a community that legit comes through when you're about to quit. Oh, Kim Fused, don't quit. Don't quit. I mean, I'm so glad that you were able to get the help you needed from the community. My Discord server is so amazing. I'm so humbled by the people who are here. I started doing what I do because when I got into the hobby, I still remember I had an issue where on my ESC, the min throttle was too high and the ESCs were twitching. And I was completely confused. And I went on RC groups. And this was like one of the first questions I asked on RC groups. And I asked, what's going on? And somebody said, oh yeah, here's what you need to do. And I did it and it fixed it. And I was so relieved. And nobody asked me. They helped me. And as long as I've been helping people, I think of that moment. Maybe not that specific moment, but that moment and all the times that people have helped me get where I am when I try to help other people as they sort of come up behind me. And I think that's why my Discord server is so gratifying, because all the people there seem to also operate. They're just so helpful and solve problems for each other. And it's really amazing. So thank you guys. Thank you guys. You can join the Discord server, but you have to be a patron. So, you know, if that's what it takes to get you over the hump, go for it. You guys are awesome. We got a question here from You Are a Barbarian. Thank you for a $10 super chat. Thanks for all your help you have provided me with this hobby. JB, you've saved me from incredible amounts of frustration. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And thank you for the donation. Focus FPV, thanks for a $5 super chat. Mob 6 ELRS analog, HDZero goggles with TBS Fusion, updated Betaflight 4.4 on Raceband 8. All looks good. Okay, great. No, there's more. Then I arm and the video goes to noise rapidly. Okay, so if you have a lot of video noise when you arm, that usually points to a problem with the ESC or the motors. Since you have a Mobula 6 with an all-in-one flight controller, I don't know what options you have to try to fix this, to be honest. Like, could you have an aux mode set up where when you arm, you're going to low power? Like by accident, if you go to the modes tab, or have you been setting up any of the VTX CLI commands where you can change power? Like, do this. Put the output power of the video transmitter in your OSD so that when you arm, you can see if the output power changes. This is such a long shot. But like, I don't want to say, was it happening on 4.3? If it wasn't happening on 4.3, can you go back to 4.3 and see if it still happens? Should you need a capacitor, Blunty? I mean, should you really need a capacitor on a Tiny Whoop, on a Mob 6? Yeah. Check the antenna. He said it happened after he updated Betaflight 4.4. Like, what in Betaflight 4.4 could cause this problem? So consider going back to 4.3 and see if the problem goes away. You may have a hardware problem that just coincides with your switch to 4.4. This question is from Willie, who asks, are Galileo satellites available with the HDLRC M100 module out of the box? Do they need to be enabled specifically? Willie, so we've got all these new... We got all these new GPS units coming out nowadays with this M10 chipset. I'm trying to learn about this M10 chipset, but basically the M10 chipset is a new high performance GPS chipset that enables access. It supports all of the, I believe it supports all of the networks. So, the Russian, the Chinese, the US, everything. And it supports like 32, it can lock a lot of satellites. I don't remember the number. So here we can see that it can do GPS, GLONASS, BDS, that's Baidu, I think, Galileo, SBAS, and OZS. I don't even know what those last two are. In beta flight, to enable Galileo, you have to turn that on. And it doesn't seem like it has the option to use the others. But so in beta, so yes, it supports Galileo, and you have to enable it here in beta flight to get it to use it. Does that answer your question? He says, I'm currently using the BN220 and it's not helping to get Galileo sats at all. I would think the BN220 also supports Galileo. Brundlefly wants to know, do the 10th gen GPSs get interference with the Walksnail V1? I assume that they do. However, maybe some of those networks that they use a different frequency. That's a good question. It looks like Betaflight only supports GPS and Galileo, though. Gamma Gonad has getting 12 sats inside almost instantly. Wow. That's impressive as hell. Next question is from Robo FPV. What bind and fly quad would you advise for long range but under 500 grams? Under 500 grams. How about the HDLRC Recon 5? I don't know. There aren't a ton of... So there's a fair amount of quote-unquote long-range quads in the sub-250 range, like the Flywoo Explorer 4, okay? And there's a fair amount of 7-inch long-range quads. It doesn't seem like there's a ton of, like, long-range 5- and 6-inch quads that would come in under 500 grams. HDLRC Recon 5? Some people really dislike the Recon 5, though. But if you're not going to crash it and do freestyle with it, if you want it for long range, I think it's okay. The Darwin FPV, he wants 500 grams with battery. With battery. Super 6.2 suggests the Darwin 7-inch at 402 grams. Is that with the battery? And there's some custom builds you could do, but he's looking for a bind and fly. Why go for a weight of under 500? That's Cool Cat. I don't know. The heart wants what the heart wants. Let's see here. We're coming up on the middle of the stream. I think this is going well. This whole Blunty queuing up questions for me. It's a little different. Like, normally I would answer all the super chats in a block. And normally, as soon as I finish a question, I would look for the next question so that each question would be answered relatively quickly. But I would miss a ton of questions that went by while I was answering the last question. So people would try to time their questions for when I was finishing up. I think two things that are going on here. Number one, I think Blunty is picking good questions that I would have missed. And number two, I'm looking over here on the right side of the screen and seeing how big the queue is. And it's keeping me from, like, babbling for hours and hours like I'm doing now. I think it's going pretty good. We're going to take 1 second here at the top of the stream, we're going to take 1 second at the top of the stream just to remind you, just to do a little, oh, that's a big Bardwell face. Just to do a little plug for my website. My website is fpvknowitall.com. It's home of the ultimate FPV shopping list. Me, Ciati, Eirik Toft, and David Wallace. I don't think you guys know David Wallace. He works on my website. He's not as visible maybe as Ciati or Eirik are. We sit down every week and we talk about ways to make this page better. We talk about stuff that needs to get added, stuff that needs to get taken off, stuff that needs to get replaced, and try to make this page have really good recommendations for parts. Picking the parts that you want to get in FPV is really tough because, like, maybe you just don't know, like, the pros and cons of different parts. Or maybe you're new and you're a little overwhelmed. Like, there's so many different kinds of digital HD systems. Well, we try to make this content, like, help you make the right decision with educational stuff that breaks down the pros and cons of different stuff. And then at the end of the day, boom, here's a product recommendation. Buy this. Almost all of the links on this website are affiliate links. And that means that you support the channel, you support me. I get money when you click these links and you buy stuff. So I hope that you know this exists. I hope you go check it out. I also want to tell you another product of mine. Well, it's not really of mine, but another web page that I'm affiliated with is the FPV search engine, searchfpv.com, where you can search different stores for FPV products. You can search for in-stock items. You can search in certain regions. I am in Canada, and I want to buy a Walksnail Dominator. Okay. We're adding more stores. Oh, well, no, F you. I can't buy it. Oh, there it is. Dominator goggle in stock at Rotor Village. Boom. See how good it is? That is also, those are all also affiliate links, and I get money. So thank you if you use that. Hope that's useful to you. We're always trying to make that better. Just some little plugs there in the middle of the stream. And now we're going to pick up with our stream content. Okay. Slayer BR, thank you for 550 Brazilian reais. I have a GEP-RC Smart 3.5. I was thinking about migrating to digital. Could I put an 03 in it? Whew, that's a tough one. I know that the Smart 3.5 can hold a Vista. I know that it can hold a Vista. That's a tough one. So the problem is that the Smart 3.5 mounts the Vista on top. And I'm not 100% sure. It's pretty snug. I'm not 100% sure whether an 03 would go in there. And then I'm not sure about the camera either. The 03 camera is a little bit wider, and it might not squeeze into those plates. Are they selling? I don't think they're selling a Smart 3.5 with an 03. So I feel like with a little bit of ingenuity, like maybe you'd have to get a little bit longer standoffs, and maybe you'd have to like 3D print something for the camera mounting. I think with a little bit of ingenuity, you could do it, but I'm not 100% sure it will drop into the existing frame. Dan V asks, if I want to use an 03 for a new FPV build and don't have a controller yet, is there any reason to get anything other than a DJI controller? So Dan, if you are planned to only fly the 03 Air unit and you never will fly anything else, the DJI FPV controller has, some people would like that as an option. It's going to be very simple to set up and very simple to wire up. The whole binding configuration process is going to be very simple. It's going to give you enough range to it's going to match the range of your video link approximately. So people will say, well, it doesn't have as much range as an Express LRS. Well, as long as it has enough range to outrun your video link, you don't need any more range than that, really. There is an issue where when your video link drops, you also momentarily lose the control link. I think that issue has been improved, but I'm not 100% sure it's been fully fixed. And I'll keep an eye on the chat to see if anybody pops up and says whether it's been fixed or not. I don't think it's been fixed. I think they like made it better, but I don't know if they made it entirely better. The reason that matters is that, like, if you fly behind a building and you lose video link, well, if you still have control, what some people will do is they'll just throttle up and they'll try and climb above the building blind. This, of course, is risky, and if there's something that you could crash into or create an unsafe situation, you shouldn't do it. But it's a thing that people will do. I've had situations where I know I'm flying straight and level, and I know that there's really nothing in front of me, and I momentarily lose video. And so I just pitch back just a little bit and raise throttle, and I wait like 10 seconds, 5 seconds until I get video back. And that works. You couldn't do that if you lose control link. Super62 says Madstech says that it's now flyable, that they have so that maybe they've mostly fixed it. So the main reason that I personally don't fly the DJI FPV controller is, number one, I like the ergonomics of the bigger controllers, and number two, I fly a lot of quads that don't have DJI in them. And number three, I like the programmability of those controllers where I can make them sort of jump through hoops and do tricks, and the DJI controller can't do that. But if you just want a controller that you can fly with, and you only intend to fly the O3 or the Avata, I guess, then that's a fine choice. Fortune Cookie, thanks for a $5 super chat. If I wanted to get into HD FPV, is there any reason to not pick up the V2 goggles? Is the main downside versus the goggles 2 the resolution and frame rate? Well, the V2 goggles have a better frame rate than the goggles 2. They operate at 120 frames per second instead of 100 frames per second. So the V2 goggles have lower latency and better frame rate than the goggles 2. The main advantage of the goggles 2 is the OLED screen and the smaller form factor, in my opinion. The OLED screen is amazing. I know that whenever I talk about OLED on a live stream, some people are like, well, I don't think it's that impressive. I think it's night and day. I didn't used to say this. I remember when the HDZero goggle came out, it was the first goggle I'd seen with an OLED screen, and I was like, it's a little better. I don't know if OLEDs have gotten better or I've just gotten more spoiled by looking at OLEDs enough that now LCD looks like crap to me. But LCD doesn't look like crap. But every time I put OLEDs on my face, I'm like, oh my God, this is good. So, no, there's no reason not to pick up the V2 goggles. The V2 goggles can be used with the O3 Air unit. They can be used with the Vistas. They can be used with the Avata. They can be used with analog if you really want to. And they're significantly lower in price. I don't think there's I can't think of a reason why you wouldn't go with the V2 goggles if you wanted to save a little money and you didn't mind the form factor. Nick Gerner, thank you for a $5 super chat. Parts for my first quad just arrived yesterday. Excited to get started, and thanks so much for all the content. Thank you, Nick. I hope it goes very smoothly for you. Use a smoke stopper. Test fail-safe before you fly. Can I get a channel? Wants to know. Can I go 10 kilometers with HDZero? Yes. So before Wesley Vardy took down all his long-distance tests because he got in trouble with his government for doing them because apparently they weren't legal to do. He went, it's a shame that all the data is gone because I don't remember the numbers, but he went over 10 kilometers for sure. You're going to need a high gain patch antenna. No problem. But yeah, you 100% can. Run Puppy FPV says, thank you for a $5 super chat, Run Puppy. I'm having an issue updating my V2 goggles to the newest firmware to get the HDOSD. It downloads the firmware, but once it starts to transmit, it fails. That sucks. Yeah. Are you able to flash other firmwares successfully, Run Puppy? Hang on, let me filter on you, Run Puppy, so I can see your responses. Like in my, when I've had that happen, I just power cycle and try again, and it works. Steve E says Wesley Vardy went 31 kilometers on the HDZero system. Thank you for that information, Steve. If it kept doing that, I would try a different computer. I don't have a great answer for you, Run Puppy. Try a different USB cable. Z. Anderson says, I had the same problem and I had to use butter to go backwards. That's a good point. Run Puppy. Try using WTF OS butter to roll them all the way back and then try to update them again. I mean, it couldn't hurt. Good suggestion. IMJM, thank you for a $5 super chat. Recommendations for motors on a 7-inch build, going for flight time versus performance. IMJM, I think that everyone will agree that, like, the canonical... What are you downloading? Don't download anything. Oh, wow. That's interesting. Oh, God. I've done it. Brundlefly says, with Blunty running the things in the background, my live stream is 90% more watchable and entertaining. I'm not sure if I should be insulted. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I have completely borked this Chrome window by trying to go to the Downloads tab. Will it? Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, boy. I cannot kill this window. Can I start a new Chrome window? Oh, no. Oh. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. I've killed Chrome. Oh, God. How did it close? Oh. What have I done? Hang on. I don't know. Now my... Oh, Chrome is really mad at me. I have to kill Chrome. This is annoying. What are the chances that I will pick the correct Chrome task? Okay, this one is at 10.6%. I'm going to end it. Oh, Chrome is gone. All right, well, hang on. Let's see if I can just restore all my pages. No, don't resume the download. Oh, God. Sorry, hold on, folks. Sit tight. Sit tight, folks. Sit tight. Okay. I think we're back. Did it keep all the queued messages, Blunty? No, I know why it did this. Hang on. Let's answer this question. Oh, here's my queue. Oh, my queue is up. Oh, isn't that nice? I should keep that. Unfortunately, I've lost this message. The question was about 7-inch motors. So I think that most people would agree that's kind of the canonical 7-inch motor is the Brother Hobby 2806.5 or similar. That is thought to be like the ideal size, where smaller motors can be used, but they have to work a lot harder and they become less efficient. The other one is the FPV Cycle 30 millimeter motor, which is even bigger. And I think if I were looking to build a 7-inch rig, I would pick one of these. If you want to go longer flights, I would go for lower kV, like 1300 kV or 1150 kV. Yeah, wow, that's really low kV. The thing is about the kV, you can always turn the kV down with a motor output limit, but you can't turn it up. So I would get something like the 1300, the 1460. I might even get the 1700 and then lower the output limit. And those are some good motors that you might consider. Let's see if there's any suggestions or thoughts in the chat before I move on. I'm going to look for pinned messages from Blunty. I don't see any, so I'm guessing. 2806, yeah. 2807, 2806, 1300 kV on 6S. Blunty just pinned this message. Blunty deserves a raise. Blunty writes his own paycheck, I think. He just tells me how much his hourly rate is, and then he tells me how much he worked, and I just pay him however much at the end of the month he says I owe him. I shouldn't admit that. Yeah, every month Blunty sends me an invoice, and I just pay it. So whenever he decides he deserves a raise, I guess he'll get one. Not a good thing to say, and that's not how you approach negotiation with your contractors. Oh, that's good to know. Okay, next up, Eleftherios Nitauntakis. Wow. Sorry about that. Asks, I would like to ask if it's possible to 3D print a quad frame for 3-inch or smaller, and what's the best material to print it with. For 3-inch and smaller, you can get away with it. The strongest material that I've seen quad frames made out of is carbon fiber infused nylon. For a 3-inch or below, that might be overkill. What do you guys think? Could PETG be used? I don't know. I'm going to take 1 second out of the stream and just shout out. What was his name? JBD. What's his name? Give a little shout out here to JBD FPV in the Discord. What's your son's name, JBD? He said it earlier, but I don't want to get it wrong and misremember. It was like William or Matthew. Let's see, now I've done it. Maxwell. There we go. Maxwell. Good to see you, man. Thanks for watching the stream. And glad you're enjoying FPV. Give a shout out to Maxwell there. All right. Freelojo says they used a PLA Pro on a 2.5-inch build. Let's take a question from PX Saber, who asks, any idea why 4-inch frames are so underused? PX Saber, I think the reason is, I agree, by the way, 4-inch has always been unappreciated in the world of FPV. All the way back to when I first got started, it seemed like everybody used 5-inch and some people used 3-inch and nobody liked 4-inch. I think 4-inch is in a weird place. Especially if you want to carry a GoPro, 4-inch doesn't do great with the weight, and 5-inch does much better. And then down in the 3-inch size, you get a lot of the advantages in terms of lightweight. A 3-inch is going to be, but a 3-inch is going to be lighter, and so it can be more durable depending on how you build it. 4-inch is just this awkward spot where it kind of doesn't quite have the power of a 5-inch and doesn't quite have the tiny sort of low noise and not as threatening of a 3-inch or smaller. It's just this weird zone where most people would rather go up to a 5-inch or they'd rather go down to a 3-inch. And it's a shame because I love flying a 4-inch with no GoPro for freestyle. It's great. It actually has a lot of the sort of carefree feel of a micro with a lot of the power and agility of a 5-inch. I think 4-inch should be more appreciated. There aren't a ton of great 4-inch props. The selection is low. It's kind of a chicken and the egg problem because there aren't a lot of great props. Then people are not as attracted to 4-inch. The other thing I'll say about 4-inch is that a lot of the motors that we currently use for 4-inch are like 2004 motors or something, and they have 2mm motor shafts, which do not do well in a crash, especially with the weight of a 4-inch. So, you know, if I was thinking about building a 4-inch, like I love flying them when I fly them, but I mostly fly 5-inch, don't I? See the problem. I would rather have like a 5-inch with a 2207 motor a lot of the time. Yeah, JBD FPV agrees 4-inch prop selection is the dumps. Here's a question from JB Hobbies, who asks, I've got the Cyclone Nano 2.4 gigahertz Express LRS receiver. I don't know how to upgrade Express LRS firmware. It's not available on Express LRS configurator. Any suggestion? All right, so let's take a look. Cyclone Nano 2.4 gigahertz Express LRS receiver. Like, what target is this? So I've never heard of this company. Let's look for a target. Doesn't say. So the next thing I would do is I would connect to it with Wi-Fi and open the web browser page and look for what target is on there. And I will bet you, I'm not literally betting you this, don't come try to claim your money later, but I will bet you, rhetorically speaking, that it's just the, hello, come on. I'll bet you it's just the generic target. Is it generic? No. What is it? What is the name for the generic target? DIY. I'm going to bet you that it's just a DIY 2400 RX. I'll bet you it's this target. That's a joke. I was binding to somebody else's quad, and that was their binding phrase. Please don't get on me about hating Crossfire or some other nonsense. Yeah. I'll bet you that's the target, but I couldn't say for sure. That's frustrating that they don't. However, I would strongly, I mean, you've already bought this receiver, so, you know, what's done is done. I would strongly advise you that if you buy a don't buy hardware that isn't in this list, okay? Because hardware that's in this list, and then when you click on it, it may actually give you a warning. Like, what's an example of one that gives you a warning? Oh, man. What's one that gives you a warning? There we go. If you go to the Express LRS configurator and you see this, personally, I would stay away from it. It might work fine, but I would stay away from it. Okay? So if you don't see the manufacturer here in the list, or if you select the hardware and you get this warning, I would try to buy something else if possible. Wait a minute. Mupshot has an answer. Thank you, Mupshot. Mupshot. Oh. Here is a link. How did you find this, Mupshot? So Mupshot has a link to the 3.0 firmware for this. Here, I'm putting the link in the chat. How did you find that? Is that linked here somewhere and I missed it? Is it down in the questions? Well, let's answer that question, if we can. How did you find it? Cannot submit links to other... Shut up. Useless. So... Oh, that looks real. That looks exactly like beta FPV, doesn't it? It's not... That is 1000% the same as the beta FPV mold. What is going on here? Okay, so here's the firmware. All right. Why is that... Weird. Don't buy this. Don't buy this hardware. Like, if you already bought it, fine. You just use it. Oh, that's the transmitter, not the receiver. Like, if you're not gonna... Don't, the firmware is not in the ELRS configurator. So you're gonna be relying forever on Cyclone, whoever the hell that is. Discontinued. So here is a piece of hardware. The firmware was never supported by Express LRS. Now it's discontinued. Will it ever get an update again? I don't know. Don't buy this. There are so many red flags here. There are fewer red flags here. Okay? But like, this is how you don't buy the wrong ELRS hardware. The number one thing you do is you open up the configurator, look in the configurator, and see if it's there. And if it's not there, think about not buying it. All right. Next up. J-Dub, thank you for a $20 super chat. After my divorce and moving, all my quads have been packed away for months. Sorry about your divorce, or congratulations on your divorce, whichever is most appropriate. Here's $20 for keeping me up to date. Oh, thank you, J-Dub. Better me than your ex. Sorry. Quad City Bay Area is back with another super chat. What's the best way to add a backup radio with my same info as my daily driver? The backup radio will be a Zorro with his own external module using ELRS. Is it the exact same hardware, Quad City Bay Area? So on the latest versions of EdgeTX, I'm pretty sure that all the information is stored on the SD card. Can anyone back me up on that? I think that EdgeTX 2.8 keeps all its information on the SD card now. There's none in the EEPROM. And what that should mean is that if you copy the SD card and put it in the new radio, it should just copy the whole configuration. Joey W says yes. I think so. The other thing you could do is you could copy the models and settings using EdgeTX Companion. And that'll work even if it's got something in the EEPROM. Joey says the radio.yml file is no good, though. Tell me more about that, Joey. What does that mean? I rarely hear JB flat out say, don't buy this. So probably... Oh, Joey W says, the radio.yml file contains info about the hardware. Just delete that file. So go into your SD card contents, find the radio.yml file. Delete that file. Don't delete it from your SD card. Copy that, but don't copy the radio.yml file from the one radio to the other. Just copy the other stuff. Stefan23 says, I have a new Radiomaster Boxer 4-in-1. I'm running 250 Hz packet rate and 5.25 mega baud, but the errors keep on rising. After a few minutes on the bench, I have 230 errors. I also get telemetry loss. Lower the baud rate. The baud rate needs to be high enough to handle your packet rate, but no higher. So if you're running it... Now, you shouldn't be getting errors, period. But let's try and solve the situation that's in front of us. Lower the baud rate 1 click, whatever that is, and see if the errors go away. I don't know what the recommended baud rate is for a certain packet rate, but if you set the baud rate too low, it will force the packet rate to go down. So you can't get that wrong. And if you would get an error message. I think you'll get an error message. Hang on. Let me look. Let me get my radio out here. So I am at, you guys are not going to be able to see this. You just have to take my word for it. I am at 50 hertz and 5.25 megabaud and no errors. So you really shouldn't be getting errors at 5.25 megabaud. Can you try a second module and see if your module has a problem? If you are getting consistent errors with multiple modules, I would think about maybe asking Radio Master if they think the radio is defective. But you could also just try knocking that baud rate down by 1. So what happens if I... let me turn myself up to... Let me turn my packet rate up to 250 hertz. Okay, so now my packet rate's at 250 hertz. And now I'm going to go turn my baud rate down. Where do I change that baud rate? Is it in the hardware screen? Hang on. There it is. So if I knock that baud rate down to 921K, then I should see in the model screen, nope, still no errors. Still no issues. What if I try to increase the Express LRS? Let me try turning Express LRS up from 250 hertz to like 1,000 hertz. How is that still working? Oh, well, apparently that baud rate is high enough. Okay. Neat. I want to get the error message. You guys can't see this at all. This is terrible live stream content. Where's the baud rate? Let me turn the baud rate down even further. 115K. That cannot support 1,000 hertz. It's impossible. No, see there, it knocked it down. So when I turned the baud rate down to 115K, it automatically changed the Express LRS packet rate and lowered it. So Express LRS will not let you use too high of a packet rate for your baud rate. That's interesting. See, that's good to know. I actually wasn't sure that would work like that. That's fantastic. Now we're going to turn our baud rate all the way back up to 5.25 megabaud, because of course we are. And I would consider whether your module is messed up, or I would consider whether to reach out to Radio Master to see if it is a defective module. There we go. Next up, we got a question from Kevin James Oscar FPV. How do you bind the Vista with the V2 goggles? I've tried it in both modes and nothing happens. So, Kevin, the number one reason people can't bind the Vista, there are two problems that can commonly cause this. The first problem is that you're in the wrong mode. I know you said you tried it in both modes, but let's just go through all the possibilities. Inside the goggles can be in Avata mode. They can be in DJI FPV drone mode. That's the potato drone, as people call it. They could be in O3 mode. And they could be in digital FPV system mode. The digital FPV system is the mode you want to bind with the Vista. Okay? Next. If the Vista is on firmware 01.01.0000 or newer, that's 01.01.0000 or newer, it will not bind to the V2. It will only bind to the goggles too. So, first, make sure your goggles are in digital FPV system mode. Second, plug your Vista into the computer. And if the Vista is on firmware 01.01.0000 or newer, roll it back to the firmware that ends in, I think it's 0806 is the one you want. But whichever one is the one before 01.01.000, then it should bind. Tito Taylor, thanks for a $20 super chat. Let's just make sure. Tito's just left a sticker. Oh, well, thank you, Tito. And thanks for a $20 super chat. Thomas Nagel. Thomas Nagel asks, is the TBS Power Cube still good? No, it was never good. They have it listed for $20 on their site. No. What is the TBS Power Cube? I'm going to guess that almost all of you don't remember it. The TBS Power Cube, I'm going to show it to you in just a second. TBS, I feel bad for TBS. TBS has tried so hard to push this hobby in a better direction than it wants to go. TBS has tried so hard to make products that are innovative, that are easier to use. And the FPV hobby consistently says, no, hit me harder, daddy. I don't want products that are easier to use, because I want products that are all cross-compatible. Sorry about that. Because the TBS products, they sort of move you over into TBS's ecosystem. TBS is trying to do something new. And so a lot of times the new stuff that they do, you had to just keep buying their stuff. And people didn't want to do that, I'm guessing. They just wanted the hard to use stuff that at least it's what everybody else had, I guess. So this is the TBS Power Cube. This is a stack. It is 4 ESCs, a video transmitter, and a flight controller. By the way, these ESCs are 2-in-1 ESCs, if I remember correctly. 1, 2. I don't know why each ESC seems to be 2 boards. Oh my God, each of these is a single ESC. Wow, I did not remember that. So here, is that right? It is. Here's one set of motors, here's the other. So this is 1 ESC on a board, 1 ESC on a board, a video transmitter. I think it's probably the equivalent to a Unify, I would guess. And a flight controller. And one of the things that they do that's clever is they actually pass the power up these nuts. These nuts. Sorry. I couldn't resist. So these are live. One of these, 2 of them are power and 2 is ground. And it's called the Power Cube. And, like, first of all, the reason you shouldn't buy it is I'm 99% sure that it's the Calibri F. Is it an F3? I think it's an F3. I guess I should check that. Yeah, no. So don't buy this. It's an F3 flight controller with, 25 amp ESCs, guys! 25 amp ESCs! There's no reason today to buy an F3 flight controller. Betaflight doesn't support it. Nothing will, you will not be able to update the firmware. You'll barely be able to configure the firmware. No one should buy this, even for $20, unless you want to put it on a shelf as a memory of things TBS tried to do to make the hobby better that we did not appreciate and did not buy from them. Yep. Yeah, don't buy it. Don't put it on a quad. The real a reason why this may not have been more popular is that, like, if you blew an ESC and had to change it, can you imagine how much work it was to take all these nuts off? Yikes. No. It's a clever idea, and TBS probably lost a lot of money developing it, and then when it didn't sell well. They put it in their bind and flies. Some of their bind and flies. I forget which one. The Oblivion. Did the Oblivion have it? I don't remember. I wouldn't be surprised if they were a little resentful over there. I love TBS, but are they as a company not innovating enough anymore? Should they pick up on designing, producing HDZero VTXs? I would love it if they did that. I think that TBS could make a good HDZero VTX. However, I don't... The reason that I think TBS hasn't leaned hard into HD video transmitters yet is that to compete with DJI, I think that they would struggle to compete with DJI. And I don't mean that they wouldn't make a bad product. What I mean is that DJI, you have to sell a lot of product to make enough money to make it profitable. DJI, so let's say that 50% of new FPV of pilots buying new product by DJI. If you think that number is exaggerated, I think you're wrong. I think that may be a low number. But let's just say, for the sake of this argument, that 50% of new purchases of FPV gear is DJI video transmitters. Okay. And then the rest of it is split between Walksnail, HDZero, and analog. So now let's imagine that TBS starts producing a video transmitter, a digital video transmitter. Well, already they only have access to half the market, and there's 3 other companies competing with them. That's for a small company like HDZero to come out of nowhere with 3 employees. I don't know how many employees HDZero has. I know that Carl is not the only employee. They have engineers working for them. They have manufacturing facilities. But HDZero is a small company coming kind of out of nowhere and trying to carve out a niche. And they can afford to try to get by on very little sales for a while. Eventually, maybe they will not be able to survive that way anymore. But TBS is an established, larger company. And as companies get larger, it's harder for them to take risks because they need enough revenue to support their existing business. And so, would TBS make an HDZero? Would TBS make their own digital video transmitter? That seems like it would be like, look at what Walksnail has gone through. And Walksnail basically just made a second version of DJI's video transmitter with similar hardware and similar. I mean, it's not a clone and it's not a copy, but it's, I don't know if TBS would go that direction, especially given how many things TBS has tried to do in the past, like this Power Cube, and just didn't really take off. Who knows why? So if I'm sitting over there as TBS, I'm like, great, I'm going to invest a shitload of money in a digital video transmitter that then maybe it'll succeed and maybe it won't. I mean, that's why I'm not over there actually innovating. I'm just sitting here talking on the live stream. I don't think TBS would make an HDZero one either. I'm not sure how many third parties are going to make HDZero video transmitters. I feel like that... I mean, they have open sourced some of this stuff. Maybe someone could, but right now HDZero is selling direct. And I don't know that the HDZero is unable to fulfill. Let me ask you this. Is HDZero making as many video transmitters as the market wants to buy? Well, let's look. let's not do in stock only. Let's look at all of these stores around the world and search for the HDZero Freestyle 1 watt. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have put the word freestyle in there because it's giving me too many search results. HDZero, how about we just search for, no, because then it'll just put VTX. The store search results are sometimes, should I put it in quote? Oh, I should put it in quote. Hang on. Hang on. Put it in quotes. HDZero VTX. Let's see how well that works. Okay. So HDZero Whoop VTX in stock. HDZero Whoop Light Bundle in stock. Let me search for the word VTX. HDZero Freestyle in stock. HDZero Race in stock. HDZero Freestyle in stock. In stock. In stock. In stock. Out of stock at Unmanned Tech. So Unmanned Tech has some VTXs out of stock. Freestyle out of stock. Unmanned Tech not doing so good with stocking the VTXs. And that's it. Nobody else has them. So, at least in the United States, they're all in stock. And I bet if we go to the HDZero website, we would see the same. Products. Shop. That's what I want. HDZero new product, VRX VTX. In stock, in stock, in stock, in stock, in stock. So see what I'm getting at? HDZero is already making more video transmitters than the market wants to buy. So what's the motivation for a TBS or a Foxeer to make more? Don't see it. All right. Well, anyway, that's my prognostication about the future. And like all future prognostication, it will turn out to be wrong. But makes for good live stream content, doesn't it? License to Drive wants to know, how many years in the quad world does an electronic part typically become ancient museum worthy? In the quad world, 3 years. At some point, TBS analog VTXs won't sell that much anymore. Yep. At some point, TBS will either get out of the VTX market or make a digital video transmitter, one way or the other. Flyhigh FPV thinks that I hate TBS because they don't have affiliate links. Is that the right context for that comment? Or am I misreading it? Oh, I don't know about that. Is that fly high? Oh, it's 2 words. No, I want to know the context for that conversation. I don't let the presence or absence of affiliate links affect my editorial opinion on a company. That's stupid. That's just stupid. I let the presence or absence of affiliate links affect which company's links I put in my video description and my website, because that's how the game works. But that's just so ridiculous. To think that I am petty enough to that's so stupid. If that's what you're suggesting, no. My beef with TBS, if I had a beef with TBS, it goes way back before I even did affiliate marketing. I was banging heads with Trappy for a long time, but I don't hate TBS. And I don't shy away from covering them because they're, significant, relevant, and make stuff that people use. So that's all I'll say about that. Would the R&D investment really be that much? Yes. Long story short, yes. And at the end of the day, would they sell? That's the question. Okay. Let me unpin these. I'm unpinning them, Blunty, because my screen got messed up by having to reload the window. So I actually see multiple copies of these messages. So I'm just going to unpin those real quick. We're coming up to the end of the stream. Man, it's just flown by. With Blunty queuing up the chats, it's just like flew by. We got a couple more queued up, and then we are going to Ciati's going to start streaming on his channel. Felix wants to know, I only see a blue image in my DJI V2 goggle with analog receiver from Eachine. In another goggle, I do see an image. What could it be? Could the cable that you're using to go into the AV input on the goggle have the wrong pinout? Some cables have a different pinout. AV cables have a different pinout, and it may have a wrong pinout. So, that's my best guess, is to make sure that your cable has a compatible pinout with the AV input on the DJI goggles. AK Drone Flyer, you do need to plug in air units and Vistas to flash them. The O3 can be flashed from USB only, but the air units and Vistas cannot. Seeley FPV wants to know, I'm willing to switch to digital, but I don't know which. I'm in school and don't have unlimited money. I also have Fat Shark Dom V3 for a VRX. What do you recommend? If you don't have unlimited money, the thing is, none of the digital systems... Well, that's not true. Okay, hang on. So the O3 and the Goggles 2 are a little bit more expensive. The O3 and the Integra goggles are not that much more expensive. What's an O3 go for? O3 is selling for $229. That's a fair whack more. Okay, so the O3 is more expensive, so don't get the O3 if you're concerned about money. But the Vista video transmitter, or RunCam Link, or whatever they're calling it today, Walksnail and HDZero are all very similar to the same price. So either you have the money to go digital, in which case you pick the one that works the best for you, or you don't have the money to go digital and you should just stay on analog. If you need to use the Fat Shark Dominator V3 goggles that you already own, then DJI is out because they don't have a standalone video receiver, at which point you're either going to pick Walksnail or HDZero. Walksnail is going to have better range and penetration. HDZero is going to have better latency and higher frame rate. Well, it's not higher frame rate, actually. It's only 90. To take that back. Better latency. So do some reviews to see whether you like Walksnail or HDZero better. I will say... Hello, come on. I made a video that you should watch, the best FPV goggle 2023 buyer's guide. And you definitely should check that out. How does that only have 46K views? I am sad. I'm not really sad. I really thought this video would pop off. I want to see this. This is only 1 month old. Okay. This video needs to be at like 200,000 views. How does it... It's too bad Matt Potch... I respect Matt Potchwat so much. Because this SOB... Okay, only 46K on that one. That's 6 months ago. Okay, I shouldn't... maybe I'm just over... Oh boy, nobody wanted to see that video. Jeez. 11 months, 600K views. He's got several videos over 1 million views. I don't know why. Like, I look at the video and I look at the concept and I'm like, okay, I get why that video. But then I make a video that I think should have a similarly popular concept. And I don't get 1 million views. Can I sort by most popular? Anyway, never mind. This is not a good use. Not a good use of the stream's time. It's just me ranting about why Matt Potchwat's more popular than me. In some ways. He peaks higher. I'm sure I get more views than him overall, but I post like way more videos. But he peaks higher. Matt Potchwat can sit down and make a 2 million view video. And I'm not sure I've ever done that. And it bothers me a little bit. Mario Izquierdo thinks his super chat got missed. Okay, Mario, let's make sure we get that. Mario Izquierdo, thank you for 250 Mexican pesos. I'm about to buy a GEP-RC Mark V and I want to go 03, but I know the Integra is coming out. Just don't know what to get. The V2s, the Goggles 2s, or the Integra. If you're going to be using the 03, I would take the Integra. Or the Goggles 2 if you prefer them for... I don't think there's a lot of reasons to go with the Goggles 2 over the Integra, though. The 03, the 1080p and the OLED screen, to me, are really, really impressive. And you don't have to carry a GoPro, and you can still get pretty good video out of the 03. If you already own the V2s, and or if you fly some Vistas, you could make an argument that the V2 goggles are better than the Goggles 2. But if you know you're getting an 03, I think I would get the Integra. Or to be fair, I haven't seen the Integra in person yet. I just am reading about them. But I don't think I would buy the V2. The V2s don't have any GPS in them. That's nice. The OLED screen and the 1080p are real killers, though. We got 5 left and only 3 minutes to get through them. All right, Blunty, you're going to have to stop queuing up questions. What's my favorite movie? The Fountain by Darren Aronofsky. If I have to pick one just off the top of my head. Tito Taylor, thanks for a $10 super chat. I'm brand new to FPV. I have the iFlight R25, DJI V2, and I bought the TX16S and the Zorro. Any feedback? You bought a racing drone with DJI in it. Nothing wrong with that. I hope you enjoy it. Yeah. Fail-safe test before you fly. And, don't arm inside your house when you're wondering if your props are messed up. This is a good setup. Spike Spine, thank you for a $5 super chat. I think it's a sticker. No, Spike, let's just make sure I didn't miss your question. It's not attached to your super chat, but I bet you meant to. Where's your question, Spike? Yeah, but where is his question? I see that he forgot, but he hasn't actually... Spike Spine. He hasn't actually then posted his question. If you post your question, I'll try to do it, Spike. And we have the last super chat. Sunshine, thank you for a donation. $10 super chat. Really appreciate it. Link for a promo to you and Blunty's new reaction show and Patreon live chat. No music, copyright 127. Our new reaction show? Where's this? I don't know. Okay, we'll check it out next time. Send it to news at FPV. No, oh, here we go. No. What is this? Oh, hang on, I gotta unmute
React
this.
channel, and it's just all drones rescuing dogs.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm expressive enough for that.
That's why it would be good, Blunty. That's why it would be good. I like your lack of expressiveness. And then come over here. Right? Sure, why not? And then I'll go over here. I'll reach for it. Okay, back in and go. What? No! Stop! And then, oh my God. Wait a minute. How about this? Did you... I mean, just stop. Right there. He's down this hole. Where did the hole come from? Oh, so good. So good. Oh, shut up! Shut up! Did you see that?
No. No, don't use that react. Don't use that react. That one was fake anyway. That helicopter one was fake anyway. All right, thank you for that, Sunshine. Keenan Barnes, thanks for a $5 super chat. I'm getting LASIK in 2 weeks. I'm excited to see what my goggles look like. Great. We are going to wrap up. Spike Spine, I'm going to give you one more chance to have typed your question. It's further up in the chat. I'll post it again just in case. Oh, I'm sorry, Spike. We are out of time. Feel free to email me, jb@joshuabardwell.com. I definitely will remind me that it was a super chat and that you didn't get to. Everybody go watch Aaron Ciotti's stream over on his channel. I am out of here. Have a great... There's the link. Resurrecting the dual VTX analog digital cheater rig. A dual VTX cheater rig? Wait. Oh my God, Ciotti, you are not building a dual VTX analog digital cheater rig. That, I'm going to go watch the stream. No, I actually have something to do with my family. Well, let's talk more about that. That's badass. Bye, everybody.